obviously we're changing gears a little bit from the DVX, kind of through this here yesterday, but the goal is I don't want to talk too long because I want to kind of show you guys what we're looking at, and then hopefully most of the time, or at least half the time, it can be like hands-on, because it's boring to hear me talk, so I'd rather you guys kind of play with the stuff and actually see it work, try and kind of break in and see what kind of problems you would run into. Even as I'm going through it today, I'm sure we might have like some hiccups with some of the equipment, but it's probably good because you guys will see like how to troubleshoot through it and probably the same problems you might run into in the field. Today we're going to talk about the BrightSign players. There's kind of this one main player that we're using is called the LS423. That's this. A lot of you guys have probably seen it, technicians. If you don't know, we're going to learn all about it today. It's a digital signage media player, but it's also just kind of a media player in general, and we're going to see two different uses for it, which for this type of thing, like putting, you know, you might have a restaurant that has a menu up, you might have a church that has announcements, you have funeral homes where they, you know, they put up to like this service is to the right, this service is to the left, so all kinds of stuff like that. Anything you can imagine, media-wise, presenting, we can probably do with it. Even if anyone's seen the Old Bridge Funeral Home where we have that crazy backdrop behind the casket where, you know, you put clouds or like a baseball field or something like that, that stuff with the digital signage media player. This is the most basic model. It's like the lowest end. It's only our cost, a couple $100, but obviously the client doesn't find that out. You know, it's a pretty cheap thing for them though, even with install, because it's just, well, I'm just saying you don't relay that information to the client. You know, that's our cost. You know, a lot of you guys have seen the simple setups. We get one of just a TV and this behind it, and that can kind of get you up and running. So it's kind of a cheap thing for a client to put in, but they're kind of cool what they can do. Also, if you have done any of our radio on hold music type of stuff, it's the same player. So that's this kit here, and if I open it, it looks the same. For all intents and purposes, we want to kind of consider these to be two different SKUs or two different you know, items that we're selling. It is the exact same player, but when we buy it for the XM, we actually get a discount on it because it comes with us promising that we're going to pay months and months of service, so they give us like a little rebate. And then along with that, it comes with all the audio stuff that you need to get it hooked up. So really in this kit, there's no video. You know, this player is playing XM stations that you can schedule to come on, lower the volume throughout the day, all kinds of stuff like that. And then also messaging that you can upload MP3s. We're going to start there because I think that's going to be more of like me talking. We're going to do some hands-on with it later, but setting these up isn't too bad. And then at the end, as you see, I have like 3 stations, so we're hopefully going to break up into groups. If you have your laptop, you can download the softwares we're going to use and kind of try all the different stuff. So first you have the radio. So BrightSign player, see it's the same one. The radio one is going to come with a micro SD card. The signage ones we buy don't come with a micro SD card, so you got to make sure when you're leaving the shop for technicians that you have the micro SD card because you're going to have to program it. The radio ones are going to come with it, just like this, and this really has the configuration file already on it. So in most cases you can plug, or in a lot of cases, you can plug the SD card in, hook the whole thing up, and then the configuration can be for someone in the office. But I'm going to show you how to do that configuration in case you want to try it yourself. You also would have to configure it depending on the client's network if they want a specific IP or something like that. So a lot of the stuff we have done has been with that. In the box also you get all like I'm saying, the audio wires, which we'll hook up over here. So network cable. You're going to have the charger, which is USB micro. If you guys don't know, there's kind of a bunch of USBs going around these days. USB micro is this like Android charger, if you know. There's also USB Mini, which is a little fatter, which you see in the True Links, and then this one also has a USB-C connection, which is kind of the newest USB, and a lot of like the newer phones have that. I'm sure most of you guys know what this is, obviously. The USB-C port is going to be used for audio. So you're going to plug this in, and it comes with, the RCA cable and all that. So through the USB-C, your audio is going to go into their system. This is a kind of an important concept to think about here with the RCA. This is not stereo audio left and right coming out of here. The player actually has the ability to send out two different mono channels. So when we program this later, and we'll look into it, you can set like a rock station coming out of this side, and you can set like a country station coming out of that side. So that's Hope Tower. They wanted 3 different channels and the option to send them anywhere. So we have 2 players, one with 2 channels and one with 1 channel, 3 channels. So it's very important to notice the colors, because one is channel A, one is channel B, and we'll go over that in a little bit. So this is not stereo audio. It's going to go mono, usually into like some kind of Valcom or like an amp that's going to have an interrupt or something like that. In most cases, it's just the one. A lot of our customers are not paying for 2 different channels. They just want 1 channel. And so often we're taking this and splitting it into different places, whether it's on hold and their overhead music or whatever. But yeah, just remember, this is not a typical stereo situation. For technicians, when you're installing these, I found that these USB-C to 3.5 cables are extremely delicate, and occasionally they'll just not be working. It's only really happened once to us, but I think it's important. We have some of these, and I'm sure we can tell Austin we'll get more. But it's good when you're doing a job like this, have a couple extra of these, because you never know, they can break. Unfortunately, they don't make kind of like, or I haven't been able to find like a high-end version of this. It's like a cheap thing, so having an extra one of those is good. And then another reason I want you guys to kind of be hands-on today, technicians, think about how you would mount stuff like this. I'm sure most of you have dealt with it already, but with this one, I like to, tape that together so that connection never gets lost at all, and then take something like a sticky back or something, or a zip tie, because you don't want, this can break easily, so you don't want this to move at all. So think about like security for that. Like we talked about, the power for these guys is going to be USB micro. I guarantee most of the service calls for a unit like this, you can just go in and reset the player. Unfortunately, with the XM and all that stuff, their servers get caught up a lot, so a lot of times just a reboot of this thing is going to solve a lot of problems.
Hey Luke,
Yeah.
question. Have you tried using the power from the USB port on the TV to power that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So technically, it's listed as needing 5 volts, 2 amps. A lot of the ones on the back of TVs are like half an amp or something like that.
Yeah.
But we do have situations where we plugged them in. So I would say just like kind of look at the specs of your TV. Some of them have like a higher voltage USB, so it's probably fine. Definitely, I think if anyone was on the CBA install over there, they just plugged them right into the TV. So it definitely, especially if you're short on space, it can definitely happen and be useful. But I would definitely make sure you look into the voltage of the TV and the amps. Well, the voltage is going to be 5 volts, but the amps specifically 2 amps. Along with that, you want to make sure that, this is kind of, you got to think about when you're mounting this. Really, you're going to need access to both sides at some point, because if you want to do a power cycle, the power's on this side, and there's also a reset button there you can use. But then this side is a micro SD, which could, in a service call, potentially want to get taken out. So just think about when you're mounting this that you kind of want both sides to be decently accessible. So we'll plug this in. I'm going to stick this. These micro SD cards are really tiny. I don't know if you guys don't know what that is. This little baby here, and it's going to slip right into this slot. There's a click. And then from here, we're gonna be able to configure it. Hopefully it all works. I'm gonna plug both in for now. And again, yeah, if you guys have any questions as we're going, I'm sure I don't want to be too boring, so just feel free to chime in. Yeah. So yeah, the only information you need off this to configure it, you actually don't even like need the IP address or anything like that. You need the serial number. It comes with these extra stickers with the serial number, so I'll like it's tiny on the bottom, so I'll take the sticker and throw it on. Maybe if there's a rack and you want to put this in the back of the rack or throw it on documentation, they have given 2 stickers there. And then we'll go right into configuring it.
So there's no serial number for us.
Yeah, I'm gonna use my login, but I have their credentials for their channel. So there's a few sets of credentials you're gonna need. This is the website here. And I actually have instructions on how to do everything I'm doing. And you'll see that at the station when we get over there. But, oh wait, let me plug in the network. But really, I'd rather like everyone check it out and learn the user face rather than go through the instructions, because then you'll be able to answer questions easier. Sorry, we got this. Look, the screen kind of stinks, so if it starts to like turn green, let me know. But yeah, this is the website you go to. In most cases, you're going to set up a new account. We're going to get an email address from the client of whoever's managing it in case they got to reset their password. We get that email address, then you name it, whatever is appropriate.
No network connection. Please check that your bright sign player is connected to the network.
Yeah, so that could be helpful sometimes. So you'll name it, whatever the location name is, put in the email they gave you, and then I start the passwords off with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so that we can kind of remember them. A lot of times the clients don't change it, and sometimes if we have to troubleshoot, I can log into their portal and kind of help them out. So, but for now, you would just do all that and then hit create, but today I'm just going to use like my own account here. Now you guys all know my password.
So the bright signs do need an active network connection to the internet.
The radio does, because it's going to be Sirius XM. We'll go over the options for the video player, but you don't need it, but it's like super preferred. It's going to be a lot easier to update. All right, so I'll just roll through the tabs here. Quick start is just like kind of instructions and stuff. Players, we're going to add the player to this website. So we're going to go with, let's name it CSAV test, time zone, Eastern Standard Time. So there's zone A and zone B. So this is what I was talking about with the left and right stereo. So we're going to use zone A right now.
Does it say which is which, or do we gotta kind of figure it out?
In the instructions here, I don't know off the top of my head, but I think
Probably A.
it says like, yeah, red is A and white is B.
I play lottery today.
One station, one zone. Do we have to plug in both, or can we just
No,
plug in
just
red?
the one, right. So yeah, you're plugging in just red. Actually though, I prefer to use zone B because there's a difference in zone A and zone B and how they react to messages. One of them, because you basically, and we'll get to that later, you can have a channel playing, like you get the pop music station, and then you upload an MP3 that says like sale on bananas all day today. And you could set it to happen every 30 minutes, it says that. Zone A lowers the music and then plays the message over it and then raises the music again. Zone B cuts the music, plays the message, and then starts again. So that's why I prefer zone B, because it's just going to make the message more audible because you don't have the music in the background. I've also had some trouble with zone A with the volume because you can
Just
set.
cutting through. Off to the gym. See you guys later.
Have fun.
We'll have some pizza for you when you get back.
Thanks for being here.
It's counterproductive, I think.
So with Zone A, I've also had trouble with setting the volumes because they like interact together. So it's easier to just use Zone B. And actually, we'll just use Zone B today. And it's a little counterintuitive because you think you want to stick with A, but I just like Zone B better. So in most cases, it's not going to matter because most of our clients aren't even using the messages. But you know, I like Zone B, so we'll go with Zone B.
Hey, Lucas.
Yeah.
So you said you can play two different stations, Zone A, Zone B. Does that require 2 XM subscriptions?
Yeah, so they're gonna be paying twice a month for that. So that's why most like we did a King's job and like we had one for their on hold and one for their overhead, and then we determined in talking to them that you know they don't really care that the on hold and the overhead's different music. So instead of paying whatever a month, let's just get a splitter cable and then.
But if you want to use that other zone for messages, I think it's only another $5 a month or something. It's not paying 2 subscriptions. So.
Yeah. Yeah, but if you just have the messaging, then obviously there's no background music. It would just all it would do, and then you might hook it up to like your paging system.
Wait, you have to pay for it to even just do messages
Yeah.
on other zones?
Which is, if they just wanted messages, this wouldn't be the
Wouldn't
solution
it
for them.
just play off the SD card that you popped in there though?
Yeah, but just because Dynamic Media wants to charge you for stuff, so if we had a client that just wanted messages, this would not be the device for them. You know, we would get
Yeah,
something.
like a
that-
message repeater.
Yeah,
that
we'd
just
get
does it,
something like
yeah.
that. There's no subscription. Yeah.
Can you explain how the paging would work?
As far as hooking into a paging system.
Yeah, if there's music and it's cutting off for paging, and it's just gonna work the same way.
Yeah, so a lot of like those TOA amps we have, and a couple of the other situations have like a priority mute. So you plug the audio into an amp like that, or a mixer, or whatever it is, and then they have a priority channel that whenever they start using the mic, it cuts everything else out, and that overrides it. So
And you just get limited stations.
in most cases, when you're installing this device, they have an existing system, and we're kind of plugging into it. Like a lot of what we're doing with this is somebody has this message repeater with like a cassette tape and all that, and we're just taking that out and plugging our RCA, and most of them are RCA, so it's easy. This is usually a very simple install, but yeah, those type of amps are gonna have like that priority. And then if you think about it, there's kind of like 3 levels, and you got to explain it to the client because you have your music that's always playing in the background. You have your paging, which is going to interrupt the music, and then you have the messages that you can add into the music. So if you think about it, if a message is playing, we have a sale on bananas this week, blah, 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 welcome to the store, and somebody picks up the paging and says like, can clean up on aisle 6, it's going to cut over the message or the music. Like the message and the music are one audio signal. Does everything make sense so far? Anyone got any questions?
Yeah, no, I got another question.
Yeah.
All right, so say we had a client, they're using this for existing XM or just as a media player. Can we also use that same, if it was already an XS system, can we also make it a media player as well?
Like for video?
Yeah, at the same time, can they do both simultaneously? You know, stream media to this TV and then have the audio out playing XM, even if the TV's essentially playing their media with the XM in the background. We can also Y out the audio to go to their store to play through their speakers, so at least playing the same content.
You can't because you have to upload these configuration files to them, and it's kind of like dedicated to one or the other. So that's why I really want everyone to think about them as 2 different devices, even though they are the same device, because we're using them for totally different scenarios. They just happen to be the same like brain or computer or processor or whatever. So if we were in a pinch and had to use one for the other, and like we needed a replacement for a service call or something, sure, we could use the same player and upload the new file. It's the same device, but for all intents and purposes, they should be like considered separate.
No, I just didn't know if we could use one for 2 purposes, but no, I guess they'd have to have 2 of those essentially.
You can have like one of these that does audio stuff also, but that would have to be audio you like upload to it or push from a website or something.
Not
So
streaming. Yeah.
it's definitely like a possibility, but in like the current like use of it, probably not gonna happen. So we'll keep going through here. So we named it. We got the time there. Serial number, which is on the bottom of the unit. That unit. And I also have here, so I'm just gonna type that in. And hopefully I type it in correctly. So right, 31E8A 5003960.
So this just automatically creates an account for you then?
We made it. Oh, so that is just the serial number. Next, we're getting to the account credentials here. The account credentials, you need to go to a separate website and purchase the credentials. So that's really not going to be anyone here's responsibility. That'll probably be Warren. You'll ask him, hey, I need new credentials, and I have them here. So we're actually going to use Ocean First credentials. You get a username and a password from Dynamic Media, which you'll put here. And again, like you guys will be provided this information because that's more of like a purchasing thing.
Well, the reason I was just asking is you were putting in the serial number, so is it associating the serial number to that account?
It is, and then I don't know exactly. You probably know more about this than me, but it notices that that has connected to their server,
Okay.
and so with just the serial number, like in my head, that should be an IP address or something like that. But I
It
guess
forwards the MAC address to the network.
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. And then you're gonna hit save, and hopefully it works. It said it wasn't connected to the network before, but hopefully now it is.
Should I plug it in?
It's blinking stuff. All right, so it says successfully provision player, CSAV test. The credentials are validated. The player will start playing modern pop hits. So, and we went with B, so we're on white. The player does take a while to update actually, so sometimes it'll take like a minute, 2 minutes, something like that. So that can be frustrating when you're trying to set levels and change channels and make sure everything's working, but that it is what it is.
I have a question.
Sure.
Is the parish picnic this September 30th, or is this a past event?
This is a passive act.
No, I'm just joking.
Why do we keep selling bananas?
Yeah, that's always my example. And then if you, and can everyone, I mean, this is kind of small, is everyone following along? They can see this kind of?
No.
No.
All the way back here, do you think I can see that?
How about this? Look at this. So also, this is nice. You're gonna get a health check here. It's really like just information. Unfortunately, if you're not on site, there's not too much you can do with the information. But it'll say when it connects. It doesn't check every like certain amount of minutes or something like that. So it'll be green here if it's working, red if it's not working. Then there's a yellow, which doesn't really mean too much to me. It might as well be red. So yeah, I don't know where we put audio yet.
It said it takes a while, but
Yeah, but it's been a while.
well, how long is a while until we know that something's off?
Like 2 minutes.
Do we have a replacement USB-C cable?
Yeah, I think I have one in my bag. We'll give it another minute. I'll keep rolling through, and then if we don't hear anything, we'll troubleshoot that.
That's just because no, I have one because we don't have that on. You sure? Right. I'm
Surprised it hasn't checked it yet. Let's just make sure it's on our network. We'll just keep rolling, and we'll upload some music to it, and then if it still doesn't work, we'll go from there.
You don't have to schedule it? Is that? You don't-
It says it automatically has one, but we'll see. So we did players here. If we have a client that has multiple players on one account, they'll have like their whole list here. But obviously, we only have this one. It shows that Zone A is not active, Zone B is active, and it has default schedules. So we move over to schedules. You can create all kind of schedules. There's a lot you can do with the player as far as like you can make it every hour change music. Like there might be someone who, you know, they want to play classical music in the morning and like pop at night, or they might want it to shut off at midnight and start up at 6 a.m. So we can do all that here. You'll click on the schedule, and then we can change here, and you can adjust the volume. You can keep adding channels, so we'll say, you know, maybe from 8 a.m. it's going to be top 40, and then at 1 p.m. it changes over to 80s, whatever. And then your end of day is at midnight. That end of day stays there, so if you want it to be 24 hours, you'll just set the first channel to start at midnight so that it won't actually shut off. And then you're gonna hit, and then this is the messages on this side. You can set the frequency and all that. You're gonna upload an MP3 file. So we'll go to you go to this messages tab, and you add an MP3 file. Oh, there we go. So it took, I mean, that was like a solid 5 minutes. I didn't upload anything yet, so yeah, you can see it does. It is dependent on like the server and all that, so at least it's working. We got it all hooked up right, but yeah, it did take a bit to get that going. All right, so we're gonna upload a MP3 file. I've given a lot of our clients aren't. I'm gonna just turn that off actually. It's really annoying. So a lot of our clients are not using the MP3 messaging capability, but I give them this. Yep, and I don't have my free trial is over. I give them this record pad, and it's not gonna let me do it, but because my free trial's over. But basically, it's just this software we download them. It's very simple. We'll give them like a headset USB mic. They hit this record button. They say their banana message, and then they hit stop. And that's all. I picked this software because it's extremely simple. When you hit that stop button, it saves it as an MP3 to whatever file where you selected it, and then they can upload their MP3s. So I wish that was, I didn't have the free trial of it, but so after you make the MP3, so that's only for clients that want to make their own MP3. Some have like a professional person that makes them, and then they'll just email the MP3. So you'll just have to talk to the customer about how they want to do that. Usually we'll figure that out in advance. But once they have their MP3s created, they can browse here. I hope I have an MP3 on this computer.
Is that a service that we could just offer in-house though, if you think of that? Because I mean, we could just set up a little recording studio or something.
Yeah, it's definitely an option. Clients have like asked us a little bit about that stuff, but yeah, that's kind of like a content creation thing. So we would need someone with a beautiful voice or something like that.
John Samuel.
John
John
I did
Samuel.
radio for a long time.
Yeah, so, yeah, we'll talk that over with John. Maybe we'll start up a new division here, but that brings up a good point because it's kind of the same thing that we'll talk about with the signage. Like the content is like so important. So while we give the client the tools to record, if someone goes up there and is talking softly or doesn't do a good job in the recording, it's going to sound terrible. So when we show them how to use that recording software, and I'm sorry I can't go more into that. Technicians, I can show you that more on another time, but you got to instruct them, speak clearly, speak loudly, because it's going to go a long way the quality. So I honestly think one of these files say something about bananas, but so we're going to upload the MP3, and you can upload a ton of them, and they're saved like on the server. So like on Dynamic Media server here, so you'll have your whole list here, and you can delete them and name them whatever you want. We're gonna go back to the schedule here, edit the default schedule, and then we're gonna add in that untitled message.
Is there a way you can test them after you upload them before you schedule?
No, not really. So that's a big thing, is like troubleshooting the volumes is honestly most of what consumes your time when you're putting in a messaging system. I've usually put like the volume down at like I put it like at 25 for the music and 100 for the message because you want it to kind of be way louder. So I would start there and then go, because the messages, no matter what, these people are recording them, they're gonna like sound quiet. And if you think about it, you want the message to be louder because it's background music, and then now it's loud. We want a message, so I would start with like 25 and 100, but then you'll troubleshoot from there depending on their system. So I have all this going, and I'm gonna hit, and I put it on let's put it on 1 minute just so we hear it, and then I'm gonna hit publish. And then we'll give it a couple of minutes and see if it changes. What did I just what channel? It can be tough when you're trying to change channels and the channels are similar and you don't know if they change. So we'll have to wait to see if we get a message. But does anyone the last thing when you I should have said this before, when you upload this schedule, right now if you look, we're in Saturday right now. So in most cases they're not scheduling, they're just picking a channel and set it and forget it. So when you make your schedule, you're gonna hit copy daily schedule, entire week, so it highlights Monday through Saturday, copy, and then you're gonna publish. And now that schedule is gonna be happening from now and forever until they come and change it again. That's what most of our clients are gonna do.
It's either all week or not at all.
Yeah, well, you can choose single days. You
I'm
can
saying that's
even,
what most clients do. It's
Yeah.
either like one
Yeah,
full
no.
schedule or just no schedule. at
yeah,
all.
people don't want to usually go crazy with that stuff. Even like the stuff where it's changing in the morning and night, most clients,
Yeah.
most of them are not even using messaging. Most times they're choosing a channel and moving on. If you go to this support tab, there's a channel guide. It's important to instruct the clients that these channels that have orange dots next to them are clean. So they're going to want to use those channels. The other channels could have like bad words or whatever. So obviously most of our clients are corporate clients, so they're not going to want that. So we usually print this list out and give it to them. You can find it right in the portal here, channel guide. So you might want to bring it with you, or we should really provide you with it and just give it to the client, explain to them, stick to the R channels, they're clean. There's also a support number here, which has been useful. The XM, we have the same problem with RXM here, and it's unfortunate because we moved on from one provider to this one, but it seems like they all occasionally are going to have some network issues with the XM because it's an internet thing. This support line you can call, and they can check the player, reboot the player. So if you are having any problems that you can't figure out, even the thing I was talking about with the ducking of the audio and the two channels being different, I found that out because I called their tech support and they explained that to me. So their tech support's pretty available. You tell them our name and then the customer's name, and then they can log into the player and reboot it and all stuff like that. So unfortunately, we can't reboot remotely, but we can see this health thing, which is green now. It could be yellow, it could be red sometimes. So if it's yellow, sometimes if a client's calling us, we'll just say reboot it, and maybe a reboot and it's back. We haven't had too many problems with these, but with the XM server, things are always a little weird, so reboots can help. The last tab here is the configuration. Hopefully some of you guys have some networking knowledge. I don't want to go too into it, and if I say anything that doesn't make sense, you should help me out. But the card as it comes and how I plugged it in there, configured, is DHCP, which if you guys don't know, that means you can plug into somebody's network and it assigns an IP address to the device and it just works, and we don't have to worry about anything. The router does all the heavy lifting. You plug it in and you're done. We have clients that have more secure networks and they want to know everything that's going on their network, so that we get a static IP address, which means this is the IP address you're going to give to this device, and we care what it is, so set that up in advance. That's where you're going to come to this page, configuration, and you're going to type in use following IP address. These 4 pieces of information you're going to get from the client. They'll tell us we want the IP address to be 192.168. We want subnet mask to be this, which usually is this example it says there. A lot of times that is the subnet mask. The gateway is always just the IP address with a 1 at the end instead of the like identifier. So like let's do an example. What our network is 192.168.62, and let's say we were gonna assign this 115. That default gateway is gonna be just the 1 version of that, right? Is that right, Misha? And then they'll give you DNS, will have to come from the client as well. Once you finish that, you would hit generate, and obviously I didn't finish this.
Hold on.
What's
I
that?
can't see it from back there, so.
So we're not actually gonna plug this one in, but once you have all the information correct that you got from the client,
It
or
would be 0 and that one too late. After
255,
and then 0.
You're signing up to
okay.
Those usually end in 0.
Yeah, so that's usually your
Well, it
subnet mask.
depends on the subnet, but.
Yeah, I don't want to get too networking heavy because I'm sure we'll have a training on just that. But you would hit generate. Oh, and you hear my message going in there. So that's the message. Yeah. But you can see even that was pretty quiet, and I had it at 125. So you really got to play with those volumes. You might even. I've had ones where I knocked the music down to 10 because it's easy to crank the amp up. So you create this file, download, and then you format the micro SD card and just drop that in the micro SD card. And now when you plug it in and you got to reboot the device, it's now on that IP address.
So what you're saying is we have to transfer it to the micro.
Yeah, and
Only
we're
if it's static, though, right?
only if it's
DHCP,
static. If
you
it's
don't have to-
DHCP, you're good. You show up, you plug it in, and it's set up. Even for just for technicians, so you know, most of the time I'm gonna be doing the configuration of their account and training them and stuff like that. But obviously we want to move. It's not that hard, so I think you guys could probably handle it. But especially like the setup of the account, I can do that in the office to save you time. But it's good for you to have like kind of knowledge of what's going on with that. You could have to do the configuration because a lot of times we call and they're like, oh they're not in good communication with their IT person. You get there, you start plugging something in, you hear from the IT person. If you can communicate with them right on the site, all right, what do you want the address to be? I can set that up for you. Done. That's definitely a technician thing.
So then we need a micro USB reader as well?
Yeah, and the reason I'm not uploading it now is because we're gonna actually do an upload with the video one, so we'll look at kind of the same concept. But yeah, you're gonna need a micro SD reader. What were you asking, John?
Just in some cases in advance, like for H&H, with their firewall and their lockdown network, you have to essentially have them open ports in the firewall.
Right.
So the website Dynamic Media has a page that tells you what ports need to be open, what IP addresses you need to reach out to in order to actually play the exit radio.
So that's actually here. If you, I don't know, yeah, you probably can't see. So if you go to the support page I was talking about that has the channels, and you click network connectivity guide,
Right.
that's here. So these ports are going to be important. Again,
That same
so
thing,
it's
even
not-
if you're not in that interface, is available on Dynamic Media's website.
Right, yeah, so I mean, you can Google it, it'll come up, but
Yeah,
it's
it'll
nice
come
that it's in the portal there, and you can go and make a free account, like with your personal or your work email address, just, it might be a good idea for you guys to do, just so you have access to those PDFs, and you can also create configuration files, and it doesn't matter what, it doesn't matter if you're in their account, like if you make the configuration file in your account, it's usable, so, it might be a good idea for everyone to kind of make one.
And in most cases for those too, you'll have to convert those URLs to IP addresses.
Okay.
Provide the IP addresses to the network team so they can give
What,
you access.
when you upload the file to the SD, is it this? Are you putting the zip in, or are you putting in the actual file?
Yeah, I think you dropped the zip in there, yeah. I know I'm moving kind of fast because I know time is slipping away, and I want to get to these and then give you guys time to, and I don't want to hold anyone late. So, does anyone have questions about the radio overall? Yeah.
So all this, when we're at the site, we go to the website and we do all this configuration there.
No, actually, probably a lot of the stuff I just walked through, you won't have to do. I want to try and set that up in advance, but I just wanted to kind of show you how it goes in case you're in a training scenario or it ends up getting to that point where we put that responsibility on the technicians. It's nice. This is the type of stuff you want to set up in advance, or you plug it all in like I showed you. You have your DHCP card or your static card, which hopefully we set up in advance. If not, on site you set up the static card, and then you can call me with a serial number. I can figure it all out and even like configure it all, set it all up from home base, and then I can give you the credentials if you have to train the client. So I'll try and work with you guys. I don't want to throw anyone to the fire on this, but you will get to try it out today though too. So yeah. So did that answer your question?
Somewhat.
Sorry. Any other questions? All right, so like I said, we're gonna get to go over there at the end, and I'll have whoever wants to publish, a couple channels to it, and so you can see the change. So then, let me just make sure I hit everything I wanted to. So a couple things. It's good. Maybe throw in your bag, your tool bag. It's good to have 3.5 headphones with you, because if you're troubleshooting this and you don't know if it's a problem with the audio system, is the player coming out, it's good to plug your headphones into here, and you're only going to get it in one ear, like we talked about, because it's mono. To plug in there to see is there music coming out of the player. So that's just kind of a useful tool to have, because if there's not music coming out of the player, you know it's a problem with the player or the network. If it is, you know it's a problem with the amp or something like that. So that's just kind of a recommendation. Again, we said this is the power. A lot of problems with the bright signs. There's not too many, luckily, but more with the radio, I would say. A lot of problems can be solved by power cycling. So just remember that. And one last thing. The interface, this GUI we're talking about, doesn't work well with I want to say Internet Explorer. I forget which browser, but we've had clients call up and they're like, I can't get this to work, it doesn't work at all, and we're like, try a different browser and it helps. So it seems to be more case by case and not this browser doesn't work, because I've gotten it to work in every browser, but some clients, so like if someone's really like, this portal's really messy and it's not working, like try a different browser. All right, that's it for the radio. Let's move over to the video player. So again, this is the same device here. This time, instead of using the USB for audio, we're going to be using HDMI out for video. This is the lowest end of the players. It's the cheapest one. They upgrade with all kinds of different features. Like the top end one has like, the 4K with the best, like 60 FPS, 4K, like all these like, great specs. They also, the top end ones have video ins. So you could potentially create a digital signage board that has like ESPN playing here and then like Welcome to Fireside Grill surrounding it. Some of them have serial or different control outs. These can even be used in like a touchscreen kiosk situation, and the USB would hook up to the TV, and you can create a project that you can flip through with your finger. So there's all different players for different features. We're mostly dealing with the most basic one. If we have clients that have more strenuous video needs, we upgrade them one or two.
So this would be pretty good for trade shows and stuff.
Yeah, we actually have used it for trade shows. Yeah.
Like mock kiosks, the interactive ones.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of guys are musicians here. Have you ever been to Guitar Center in the past few years, and they have like the GoPro kiosk there with like the little screen? You might have seen them in other stores. Those are all Bright Signs. Bright Sign, just so you guys get a background, this is like, they're like kind of like the big guy in the player market. They're really known for just a lot of digital signage players are PCs like Intel Nooks or something like this. I like this because it's less likely to fail, in my opinion. They're supposedly like heat tested. They can go up to like 120 degrees and stuff. I don't know if I believe all that, but they seem to be decently rock solid units. So that's why we use them. for digital signage as a concept, just so you guys know, like I said, we give them a beautiful 4K screen and even the most expensive bright sign player, and then they throw like a really crappy JPEG or really dumb looking file up there, it's obviously going to look terrible. So content is really the most important part. Unfortunately, that's not always what we're providing because we're not really like a creative arts company, but it's possible in the future. So it's important, and we'll talk about training clients on how to create that content, but especially for salespeople, when we're having the conversation with clients early, you want to get content discussed early because we put up this player and then they're like, all right, who's managing this thing? Sometimes, like in the case of Plymouth Rock where they have a ton of signs, it's a full-time job managing and creating content. The good thing is, if somebody's really good at Photoshop and they have some dedicated, boom, like they're going to speak your language, they're going to kill it. Their signs are going to look amazing all the time, like Plymouth Rock. But with the lower end clients, we can still show them ways to get good content. Like for instance, this, I don't think it looks too bad, especially for a church. I think this is a good looking slideshow. What you're actually looking at, someone made a PowerPoint slideshow, saved it as a video file, and then just uploaded it to the Bright Sign. So that's a concept you don't have to teach too many people. They know how to use PowerPoint already. You just show them the new way to save it. Instead of saving it as a slideshow, save it as a video, and then boom, you have a beautiful presentation that you really didn't have to learn a new concept for. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the stress of content on digital signage because that's super important, but obviously not exactly what we're doing, but it's just like a good thing to know. To configure these players, you're going to be using this software called Bright Author. It's free online. If you Google Bright Author download, it'll come right up. This website can seem a little confusing because these are all the different players I was talking about, and they all have Bright Author download right next to them. So you might be coming through here and being like, oh, is this my player? I don't know if I'm on the right player when I'm downloading. They're all the exact same file. It's all the same version of Bright Author. I don't know why they organized this list like this, but just download Bright Author. You can't have, as long as you're getting the most current version, like going to their website, there's not like different ones for different players. Then we're going to start it up. What you'll have to do in the field is create a configuration file, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do now. So since the SD cards don't come with it, they don't have the configuration file on it. Like the XM players, they send them to us configured and they're good. So this is we're going to have a blank SD card, and the technicians, you guys are going to have to set up a Bright Sign player. So I have this micro SD card reader. If you need one, we can get you them. They're pretty good to have. And then the micro SD card. I try and get 8 or 16 gigabytes. It seems like that's enough space. If you notice you have one that's too small or even one that's like crazy big and expensive, just like let us know. We'll try and get the right ones. So to create your configuration file, you're gonna go to Tools, Set Up Bright Sign Unit. I actually have instructions on how to do this here. So when you guys get to this station, I'm gonna want you guys to try to do that. You guys will have this, so it's not something you have to totally commit to memory. Like I can just email this to you and then you can use it every time. When you're making the configuration file, most of this information you're going to be skipping, so it might seem like overwhelming not knowing what all this stuff is, but the important stuff is the name. You want to name the Bright Sign unit based on the location it's at, because that's how it's going to show up in their list. So Bright Sign 1, Bright Sign 2, Bright Sign 3 is like extremely confusing. Like main or like lobby left sign, that's more descriptive, so they know where it is. Want to discuss with the client, if you can, what they want it to be called. If you don't have access to them, just kind of just be as descriptive as you can, like, conference room B, like whatever it is. So we're going to name ours CSAV Lucas Test. Description's not important. make sure username only is checked. It's not that big a deal, but otherwise there'll be a string of numbers after the title and it'll just look a little ugly. Enable wireless, don't worry about.
So these can go over Wi-Fi?
That you have to buy a Wi-Fi adapter for it.
Oh,
In that case, I don't think it's worth it. I think if we really had to put it over Wi-Fi, we would just buy a network adapter. So, for all intents and purposes, we're going to use an Ethernet and set that up separately. So, in this advanced network setup is where you can set up the IP address and all that. And where was it? Yeah, you can set up the IP address if they want a static one. Most cases, these are DHCP. Even with Plymouth Rock, they just assigned the port the IP address, and then when we plugged it in, it assigned it. So in most cases, you can just leave it on DHCP. You want to get, obviously, Eastern Time. Don't worry about firmware update. Custom splash screen. I can send to anyone who's doing this. I made a CSAV splash screen. It's not really that important because it really doesn't show up ever. But it's nice to put it in there for if, things break down, it will have our number there. Enable unit configuration. All this local web server. This stuff's not important. This is the most important thing you have to do here, and you have to worry about. So far, we've skipped everything except for naming it. This is a really important concept here. I'll try and zoom. I can't zoom in. So, what you're seeing here is standalone as an option, local file networking, and simple file networking. We're mostly going to do networked local file networking. What that means is they will be able to, if they're on the same network as the player, they will be able to log into the BrightAuthor software and upload a file, and it'll go across their network and publish to the side. If we're not allowed on their network, we even had a situation where someone had a rolling cart, so they didn't want it to be plugged in. You can go with standalone, and then what standalone does is they actually are going to have to upload to that micro SD card. They're going to have to upload the file and take it out and put it in the player. It's a little annoying. That's not ideal. But if we can't be on their network for whatever reason, that's the situation. And then simple file network, we're not going to use, so don't worry about that. So in most cases, we're going to go with network local file. Logging is not important to me. This sends you, you can set it up so that it sends you how the player's doing every 20 minutes or whatever, but it really just puts stress on the processor, so skip that. Remote snapshot is a similar thing with screenshots, so skip that. Screen color I just set to black because I think it looks nicer. But so if you notice, really we didn't do much. We named the device and we selected network, local file network. After that, we're going to make sure our SD card is formatted, which mine has a ton of stuff on it. So we're going to right-click Format, FAT30. So we're going to totally erase, make sure the SD card's clean. Then we're ready to hit Create Setup Files.
Does it always have to be in FAT32, or can we use another format?
As far as I know, FAT32. I think that's rigid there. So we're gonna hit my removable disk that I just did. Create setup files. Okay. Setup files have been created. I had a couple of cases where at Plymouth Rock too, we had the SD cards got corrupt. So just make sure you eject them properly. And then we are gonna put it in the player. And we're gonna reboot the player. So I'm just pulling the power out. I put the new card in and I'm pulling the power. We'll get something soon. Any questions right now?
what was the name of that, the MP3 recorder?
Record pad.
Record pad.
Yeah, there's like free trials online. So if all goes well, I think it's gonna display the IP address for us, which is obviously super useful. And you'll see why in a second, but it's just rebooting now.
Quick question.
Sure.
So we're gonna definitely need internet or power over here, and then no.
You should have power over here, and the way we're gonna go through it, you do need power, but there is a situation where, Ethernet,
Yeah.
power definitely, but there is a situation where this could be usable without Ethernet, but it's like kind of cumbersome, so we're gonna try and not have clients do that. But if they need it, well, it'll be a case by case.
So how do you connect to a specific unit? Because for example, I just installed the software here, and because I'm not running a specific service,
Yeah.
it's not allowed to just scan the network. I can fix that. But is there in the actual software itself where you go to connect to like?
Yeah,
this
well,
one if I
that's
need?
what we're gonna hit next. I'm
Okay.
hoping this IP address is gonna show up. Maybe it's only when the card's out that the IP address shows up.
So when you chose black for the screen, is that this
That's why
blank
it's
screen?
black, yeah.
Okay.
So, well, basically the next thing is you got to figure out the IP address. What Misha's talking about, well, that's gonna be important. So, really everyone here should have some kind of IP scanner on their computer. I use Advanced IP Scanner, but there's a million of them out there. You're gonna scan our network, and if you don't know too much about this stuff, obviously I think Misha's gonna do a networking one at some point, but I usually use command prompt IP config. I just type in IP config to command prompt, and it tells you what gateway you're on, which is important because some clients it might be 10.0.0, so it's always going to be kind of different. I plug that in here, and then we're going to search the whole IP range. So 192.168.62.1 is CSAB's network. I'm going to search that to 255. Some networks might be bigger, like I think it was Terumo. They were over like a ton of subnets. It took me like a while to figure that out. But so if you're not seeing it there, you might want to get in touch with an IT person and they might be able to help. But in general, this scanner should be fine. So now we're going to scan it. It's going to tell me every device that's on our network. I like to sort by manufacturer because then we're going to see the bright sign in there. And only thing is I want to be able to tell the difference between the two players.
Does the player have like a specific IP address that they all come out of the box that we can discover it on a network, or is it like?
No, it doesn't have a
192?
default IP. It's just DHCP default. Yeah. It
So-
might have a default IP. I just don't know.
Wait, so then how do you connect to it if, for example, you just do it locally? Does it, so you don't have
Locally,
a
you're not
DHCP?
using the network. Locally, you're just you're
Nobody-
taking out the USB.
Okay, so basically, if we don't connect this to their network, we would need a DHCP server. Like, for example, you know how some places we set up our own little switch? with
Yeah,
our-
there might be a default IP for it. I've just never
Okay.
used it. I bet you there is. What was that? Oh, little MAC address. And of course, I covered it up with some Velcro. So, based on the MAC address, I can tell that this is the IP we're looking for. So that's 192.168.62.131. And if anyone has a laptop, I think only Misha has a computer right now. But if you want to follow along, you can join in there. So next, we're gonna create a presentation. This is some media that we're gonna put up on the bright side. New presentation. You're going to choose the player name, which is LS424. We've also had LS423s. They just changed them to LS424. It's the new model. Really, nothing has changed. There it is, LS424. Actually, this is an LS423, so I'll just stick with that for now. But the newer models are the LS424.
Everyone put it in alphabetical
Yeah,
order.
it's so annoying.
It's just random listing.
Anyone see that? I'm missing it.
LS 424.
423 we're doing actually.
Oh, 423, never mind.
So then HDMI is the connector type, and that's the only one this one has. Obviously, upgraded models, there's different outputs. You could select the resolution. I usually go with 1080, like 30 frames per second, just so we don't put too much pressure. You can put landscape or portrait. If you guys have been down to Malden Funeral Home, we have a portrait one there, and you know, whatever, depending on how you oriented the screen. Today we're landscape, so we're gonna hit create. Now we're in a project. Sorry if everyone can't see. I know this kind of stuff.
Not everyone can definitely see.
So here's your template. Honestly, most clients, you're gonna go full screen template because they're gonna put up one piece of media. That's what we'll deal with today. When you guys break out into groups, you guys can try other stuff out. Why would you want to use like a 3-zone thing here? You can make it so, like if you like one client we have has like their menu, daily schedule, like all the events going up today. They have a ticker on the bottom with announcements, and those things don't change. And then there's an image in the middle of like maybe like a special event coming up, and they're rotating. So it's so that you can have different zones doing different things on different times. For today, we're gonna just go with the full screen.
Can you create custom template or user-defined?
Yeah, so I'll show you how to do that next. And if you want to follow along and make a more complicated project, and then you can upload to there when we're done. But so if you go into the zone layout, you can make your own template here. So you can add in a clock or a background image, all this kind of different stuff. And you can like size them to whatever you want. It's useful down over here. You have the width and height. So for the graphic design people, they can like perfectly nail their exact images they want are this size and that size. We're just gonna stay in full screen for the sake of time because I know we're kind of getting close to it now. You're gonna take your media and just kind of drag and drop it. So I'm gonna drop a few image files in there that I have. If you click on the images, you can set how long you want them to be on the screen. If it's a video, it's just gonna play from the beginning of the video to the end of the video and then go to the next thing.
You can mix and match, right?
Yeah, you can just drop them in. Like I have that video we just put up. I'll throw that on here. We'll put these at like 3 seconds each. You can set transitions, wipe left.
It's like a picture PowerPoint.
It really is some kind of like a basic slideshow. So if you guys have used it, a slideshow.
Is it possible that you can have something playing in the background, like a movie or whatever, and you still have these pictures going?
Yeah, so you can do that. The only thing to note is with the lowest end player, you can only have one video going at a time. So you can have images changing on the other ones and stuff, but you can't put 2 videos next to
Is
each
a
other.
ticker, like a scroll ticker?
I don't think a
considered
sticker
video?
counts as a video now.
Can you transition between layouts?
No, so that's a fallback of the Bright Author software. You can only update your layout every 30 minutes at the most because you're just scheduling them kind of. So, and just to back up a little bit, this is called a content management system, Bright Author. It's how you manage Bright Sign players. Think of it as like you buy a computer and it comes with Microsoft Paint. Like if you're really serious about your craft, you're not going to continue to use Paint. But for the average person, it's a perfectly fine application. So we start people off with Bright Author because it's free. Don't want to get them into something over their head. It's possible a client could outgrow Bright Author, and then they're expensive other content management services that can publish to the Bright Signs. They can do things like you don't have to make the media yourself. They're like these beautiful templates where you just type in text. They can schedule all different kind of crazy things. They can control, like, if they have a huge network, like 100 bright signs at once and do all different things. It's expensive, so we start them off with Paint, and then if they want to upgrade to Photoshop later, it makes sense for people, but we don't want to like make them spend money when this can do what they need it to do. So there are limitations like that. But yeah, that's what it is. So we made this. I just want to go over another useful tool you can do. If you go into this other category, you can drop in this HTML5, and then you can push the bright sign to a URL. So if you think about how useful that could be for a client, we can make the bright sign just go to a URL all the time, every day, and then they could just update that website, and then they would never have to deal with bright sign ever. They could just make, hey, this website goes to csav.com/digital signage board 1, and if they have somebody coding websites or doing their thing, they could design the website, and then it would always upgrade and refresh.
Isn't that what we have going on outside?
So that's what, yeah, if you've seen up there, I push that to the CSAV website sometimes, and then whatever's going on the website is going to be there. So hypothetically, if we were really using it for that purpose, you just would update the website, and then you never have to go back and then Bright Author.
You probably update quicker too, right?
Yeah, and you can set refresh times and all that, but yeah, there's a lot you can do with that. I think there's situations that would make sense, like Plymouth Rock. We didn't end up doing this exactly, but I think they might have it at some point though. They have like this back end sales website where you can where they show their sales numbers up there. So rather than use Bright Author, they're just always push to that website, and as it updates, it does its thing, and they have that up on the board. There's like, I don't really know too much about this, but you can do like query strings. There's like authentication and stuff you can do with it too. But
That way you can log in, that makes sense.
yeah, I actually don't know if you can. I think we had trouble with the logging in though, but I don't know. Luckily with Bright Author and Bright Sign, like I said, these are like the big boys in the industry. So a lot of the information, if you have quick questions, there's stuff on YouTube, there's stuff on Google. They have their own like discussion board, so a lot of questions you might have are there. So yeah, we made our. Actually, I'm gonna put in this HTML, and I'll just go send it to Google. Hopefully that works. And then we're gonna publish. Are you by any chance making a one or no?
I'm just playing around with stuff.
Alright,
Yeah, I
cool.
mean, it's gonna take me a while to learn.
Because I was gonna have you publish it, but I'll just do it. So we made this project. It's called Project 7 because I didn't rename it. I probably should name it CSAV Test, but we'll just keep rolling. This is your schedule for the whole week, and it keeps going. Like you can click through. You can drag, and I'm kind of freezing up here. You can drag your projects in and set them to specific times. So like we have like at CBA, she sets up every day, and she has her project for Monday, her project for Tuesday. She uploads it all at the beginning of the week, and it does its thing, and it's awesome. Most clients probably just like the radio, they're just gonna push something to the Bright Sign player, and it's gonna be there until the next thing they push to the Bright Sign player. So that's how most clients are using it. So what you can do, I drop Project 7 in there. I'm gonna click it all day, every day. You know what it is. And then when I publish this, it's just gonna go to the player till you update it again. We have down here, and Misha, this is where you're gonna upload this IP. You have your list of players here. So you're gonna come in and you're gonna hit plus, and then we're gonna put that IP address we found, which I copy here. Hit OK. Wait. Let me just delete them so we can.
So you can only push projects, you can't actually download them for the Bright Sign?
I don't think you can pull them.
Okay.
Let me make sure I have the right IP here. E2. So yeah, sorry, I'm gonna grab that IP again. and see now it says CSA if, and
It's a name of the player.
that's what we named the player, CSA Lee Lucas test. So it's nice they'll have this list, front door, back door, whatever. You're gonna click on the unit. We have the schedule created here, and then you're gonna hit publish. If they have, BrightSign wants you to buy their service, that's like a monthly fee. Where they say that you can't publish to multiple players at once unless you have this service. But I discovered if you just hit Command Shift and click all the ones you want, you can publish to multiple players at once. So that's a little backdoor deal for you. But also with that service, they can publish from a remote location. So right now, I can't publish this from home. I have to be on the same network. Some clients might want to have like a home base where they publish everywhere. They would have to pay a monthly service for every single player. We usually steer them away from that direction, but if they want that, like we will certainly sell it to them. So I just published to it, and I think it's rebooting now, and then it'll come up.
So it reboots on its own when you push to it.
Yeah, the BrightSigns are pretty quick. If you put big video or image files in there, it's gonna take a while to upload. Like I've seen it take like 4 or 5 minutes if we have like like gigs of video in there. But
So it's just limited by the size of the SD card, basically, right?
yeah. So we go. I feel like 16 gig. Like you can put movies on that, so it's gonna be plenty of space. So you can see one thing to notice: my image sizes aren't correct, so we have black bars. That's why it's important to have someone in graphic design design it, and then if not, this is my recommendation. If someone is challenged, like doesn't have the graphic design background, I tell them make it in PowerPoint, set your slide to 16:9, create your whole slideshow, and then 1 of 2 options when you save in PowerPoint, save it as image files, then you'll have 10 image files that you can upload just like I uploaded these, or save it as a video project, and then you don't have to worry about anything. You just drop the video in and you're done. And this is like the HTML page we pushed to, so you kind of saw all the concepts there. Something to pay attention to is up top here. Sorry again about the small screen. We're in local network because remember we chose local network. If you're not seeing this stuff on the side and you're like, what's this? What's standalone unit? All this? I don't recognize that stuff. You just need to click back into local network here so that you can have
And if you're under local storage, then you would upload it to the USB drive?
Yeah, so local storage, it'll create, you'll publish it to the drive, then you'll put it in
the
there.
micro SD drive.
The micro SD, and then you'll publish it and then reset it. So that's for a situation where we can't have access to their network, you would use that tab. And again, like the schedule, see it has like the times. You can only go every half hour changing templates. So I recommend they just push what they want to it, and then next time they want to update it, push it again. But there are certainly clients that want to go week by week or whatever.
Lucas, you keep saying that a lot of this that we have to reboot this thing. Is there a way that if you log into an IP address, you could reboot it that way? Because
Yeah,
we
let's
have it on a TV that's real high up.
Yeah.
Not all technicians have a ladder or something to get to it.
Yeah, so if you type in the IP address, you'll be able to get to this page, and reboot, force recovery, factory reset,
What's the IP? Just because I can't see.
Probably
131.
131.
They have, this is a pretty nice. Like I actually was able to troubleshoot because we had a real problem at Plymouth Rock getting one of them up and going, but it was really a corrupt SD card. But you were able to go in here and get all this information you might need. But yeah, if you go to that control, you got that reboot force recovery.
Yeah, because sometimes you can't get to the IT closet,
Yeah.
but if I could just sit outside the IT closet, log into it, and
Yeah.
reboot it then, and it's easy.
Really, the good thing about, and I love these BrightSigns and like knock on wood, but really they have not, once they're set up, sometimes it can be a little pain to set up depending on how the network's set up. But once they're up and running, they're usually pretty good. The radio I've had more trouble with, and I really think that's with XM server. And
I
that's
was
what-
referring more to what you're saying about every time you push new content to it, you're saying like you have to reboot it.
No, when you push new content to it, you don't have to touch it.
Oh, but
So-
what was the purpose of you rebooting it this last time when you?
It rebooted itself. So when you push the content, it rebooted.
Oh, like when you republish it. Just
Yeah, so I
automatically
didn't do anything.
And it overrides always, right? It doesn't add.
Right, that's right, yeah. So yeah, you really won't have to do too much rebooting, but it's more of like if there's a problem. Where are we at?
How do you loop it? Like your slideshow just stopped at the last thing you added.
Oh, that's probably because I didn't.
To add like a loop transition.
So yeah, you're gonna have to, let's see, good call. I'm surprised that didn't work. That doesn't really make sense.
Or do you have to go to the advanced where you do that?
This one, you mean?
Yeah, the interactive one.
You can in there. I don't know why that didn't do that. They should loop. Like if I pull it, it's something with the HTML5, so I'll try and figure that out. But like if I publish this, this will loop.
Oh no, okay, yeah, so you have to go to the advanced, and then in there you could choose to go to interactive.
Oh
And
yeah.
you see the little time between each of them, and you can choose looping options.
Yeah, you can put it back to home. So yeah, I just didn't want to get too into the interactive, but I do want to get a little bit into the interactive because, so that's like, this is like a basic, that's like a, they're called like non-interactive, which is like the basic slideshow in a row. Then there's this interactive. Really what the interactive is good for is touchscreen stuff. Because you create like, you almost like create like a web where like if you press here, it goes here. If you press this button there, it goes there. So you can do more complicated stuff. Also control stuff because you can even make it so like if you hit a touchscreen, it sends a serial command. You can make it so if at this time of day it sends a command, which that's the reason I want to get in here. I'm gonna just upload a couple images and then. And this is more like higher level stuff, but I'm gonna let you try it in this like little workshop here. If you click on your, so we're gonna put two images here and we're gonna draw a line from one to the other.
How are you drawing that line?
You have to grab it like right at the title at the bottom of it.
Oh, I see, okay.
So right now what this is saying, it's gonna do this for, how many seconds? 6 seconds. Then it's going to go to 1, which 1 is here. It's going to go to this for 6 seconds, and then it's going to go back home.
Lucas, since you said this thing will do serial commands, how many, is it limited on serial commands?
No, but this one actually doesn't do serial commands, the lower end model, but there's higher end models that do. And we're going to put in, what's cool about this is it can do CEC commands, the lowest end. So, really with CEC commands, I don't know if you guys know much about it, HDMI commands for like a display over HDMI. So we can make this bright sign unit turn off the TV and turn on the TV just through the HDMI. We don't need an additional control cable. With the serial stuff, you can like put in your own strings and do all that.
Does it have like an RS-232 out or anything?
Yeah, they have like GPIO out, so you gotta like figure out what the pins are and stuff. But
Essentially, we could build a touch screen for a client, put an
Mhm.
iPad in the wall, have it go to a bright sign, and we could have it control a whole audio rack.
yeah,
And it just be full custom design
Yeah.
without the need for a Crestron or any of those.
yeah. The thing is, it probably wouldn't be as practical because I don't know how specific you can get on like where you press on the screen if it does things. I haven't really played with the touch, so I don't know if it would work as well, but it's definitely a possibility for sure.
Even if it was just a limited function.
Yeah, if it was something simple, like you touch it and does this, but it's good for timing stuff too, so that's what I'm gonna show now. If you click here, you can go to the advanced tab and add commands. This is where you can do kind of like your serial commands and stuff. I haven't done serial with it, but if you go to this bright control, it's called, that's the CEC command, so we can set a display on, and then I'm gonna set here a display off. And sorry I'm rushing through all this, I just really want you guys to get your hands on it too. So let's publish that.
So are CEC commands always the same? That's just a generic code?
Yeah, it
Or-
is generic.
Nice.
It's kind of they don't always work great. Like some TVs you might have to activate CEC commands. Some TVs might, and there we had the off command worked, and then hopefully in 6 seconds it'll turn back on.
It's not manufacturer specific, those commands?
No, CC commands are, and
It's
it's
like-
yeah, and then here we got
Like
that.
your Apple TV, if you hit the button on your remote, it'll turn your TV
Yeah.
on as
And
well.
just do any
It's
net, it
CC.
senses the video
Same thing
signal.
with like
Yeah.
my soundbar, it'll turn it on automatically.
And luckily, like CC commands are kind. And I know John's probably dealt with them a little bit. And you see that they're like unruly, like input switching and stuff like that doesn't work that well. But and I'm sure in the next few years it'll be amazing, but not yet. But it seems like the on-off commands are reliable for the most part. So, and I think that is because of like the consumer need for like devices like that to turn the on and off. So, we're gonna stick with the on-off commands. It's really useful because like Plymouth Rock has 30 screens, and I showed her how. I don't know if she's actually using it, but we can turn them off at 8 p.m. and turn them on at 6 a.m. So like they don't have to worry about it. So I know I'm kind of like this. We're moving really fast. I'm just trying to see if there's anything I didn't. I was gonna go through the PowerPoint stuff, but I don't want to waste your time with that. But I think if you guys have any questions about how to train them on that, really we just kind of like customize it to the person. Like with Molden, I had to like make a PowerPoint slide for him, and I'm like, all right, you're gonna edit this text, you're gonna edit that text, and then you're gonna upload it. Others, they might be more like self-sufficient. I think that's kind of it, and then I'll go over the stations. But is there any questions so far about what I went through here?
Yeah, just, so when we set this up for just XM purposes at like, you know, the shopping centers or the banks or anything, we just give the client just the admin login to it and they can choose stations and stuff in there? Or do
Yeah.
they need to know like, you know, the Bright Author and all these other different?
No, Bright Author's not related to the
different
XM.
media or
Right,
anything?
so they're gonna get that login and they're gonna go to this website, and I actually have, and if the techs wanna take these, and I can print more, send them to you. I make this PDF for every client, and it actually, like this one has Zabar's information up top, so it tells them the website to go to, how to log in, their password, and then it's like step by step, so if it's like dummy proof, like I'm trying to, I hope it is, trying to just circle, press this, press this, press this. I try to train the client first on the entire platform there and not give them this. So, because if once you understand how to use that GUI, it's not rocket science. So if they get to know it, it's better. But we have like, you know, like this manager at King's like can barely turn his computer on, so it's good to like have him like press this, press this, press that, you're done.
They can also, the corporate office can manage the players too, which is good.
Yeah, so like something like that, I think that was King's. They want to put in like
At Christmas time, they want all those stores to automatically
Oh,
kick to
yeah.
Christmas music by default, and yeah, corporate can do that. They don't even have to contact the
yeah,
managers
and
of
they
each
can
store.
push it to all the players. They can make one schedule and publish it to all their players.
Mm.
So, did I answer your question? I don't know if I missed.
Yeah, no, you did.
So yeah, again, I think it's basic concepts of the day. Important to know that while this is the same thing as this, it's important to think of them as different devices because different software, different configuration. It actually is cheaper for us because of the rebate, and we get more stuff because we're getting the USB and the RCA that comes with it. So it's important to think of them as two different SKUs, but essentially they are the same device. And if we were really in a pinch and had to steal one from the other, we could, but it's good to think of them as the XM player and the signage player just because everything's different about setting them up.
Is there a radio or satellite add-on for the XM player, or does it have to go over internet?
It's just internet, yeah.
Okay.
As far as I know,
It's a streaming service, so that's
yeah.
Okay.
All right. So the stations, I'll ask you any more questions, anyone? All right, so the stations are really out of order, the number-wise. Basically, like, we have laptops over there if someone wants to grab one. If anyone has their laptop, you can use mine. I want to have, if everyone can make it to every station, maybe, like, let's split in groups of 3. Hopefully it's not too loud. This is the radio station. I want you to try and publish a radio station with 2 clean radio stations and then an MP3 message. Put it on the player, and then we'll see if your publish works. This station is, we're calling it Brightside Basic. I want you to actually configure the SD card. So set up the configuration file, plug it into it, and then make 3 PowerPoint slides and upload them to the player. it has like instructions like 10 seconds between and a swipe transition just so you can get used to it. And then this is going to be the more complicated bright sign. You're not going to make the configuration. We'll just use the one I have. And I want you to try and create CEC commands and put an HTML website and a video. We can leave my computer for that because I have all that stuff. Obviously, I don't expect everyone to, it's not like a test. I don't think everyone knows how to do any of that right now. I just showed you 5 minutes ago. So we can kind of put our brains together and I'll explain it to you as we go. And let's just try and break it and see what problems you run into. So yeah, if a couple people go to each station, whatever. Yeah, if you want to get your laptops, you can download right
Do
on
we have
there.
the IP addresses for all three of these?
So I think it might be useful to do the scan so you can see, but yeah, I have them
So
here.
you said you have a, you do have here.
So yeah, I have actually this one. I want you guys to like kind of plug it in so you can see this how to set up.
Alright, cool.
I mean, I have this one, but.
This one's not assigned yet, so someone's gonna have to make this.
Okay.
Would you fall asleep over there?
What?
Would you fall asleep over there?
No, my chair is more comfortable.
Sure, likely story, likely story.
Happy CSA anniversary, Kate.
Thank you.
4 years?
4 years. 4 years.
What do you think, like half an hour to do all this or more?
Yeah, I mean, if people want to chat or whatever, you're good. I just want people to be able to play with it if they want to.
I'm just gonna
Are you buying your own?
some pies.
Yeah, I would definitely get grab the files for that.
That should be fine. I mean, actually. Right ortho probably won't Right ortho not for Mac, huh?
No, oh yeah, I should have said that. That's the thing. Yeah.
Oh, it's not available on Apple.
Yeah.
I thought I'd never get an Apple computer. I'd never. Terrible choice of business.
Isn't that good? It just runs slow.
I'll have an Apple phone on the site. That's as much as out. I never put
So you're gonna actually log into
media. Yeah, exactly.
Line.
I don't mind, they say that.
Oh, let's see, we got
Real business. I never walk in any corporate office in Massachusetts. If it is, it's because it's one of these 40 years, but no.
First job going, man.
Good.
Good. Where'd you go to?
Where was it at? My player.
Sleeps and ninja fleas.
What are you guys doing over there?
Doing like all their audio surveillance, smart TV.
You want to try and upload it? Anything to
Yeah,
it?
no, I just figured I'd let that guys. I've gotten at least a small chance to mess with it. The last time we did it at Ocean First Bank, I timed you out of TeamViewer early, so you couldn't log out any of the pages, and I saved them. I bookmarked everything on my computer, so I had all the logins, everything you paid for. I took pictures of all the passwords you were inputting, so I had it all.
How you like my new gig?
Yeah, and then I'll.
How you like the new gig?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I watch it on the road. You on my computer, I see everything you're doing. I instantly look at my phone, everything you're doing. I just like, oh yeah, I'm like, asshole, you doing? Yeah, I see everything. Log into my computer. I was like, oh, I'll remember
It's
it.
gonna be brutal.
You want to try and do? Anyone want to try and do this?
I may watch.
Pictures of my
Yeah.
phone. Random
We
pictures
had
of my
these,
phone.
we manage like all the digital
This
signs.
is why I have like 6,000.
They have, you know, their own,
That's my camera,
companies with their own
5,000.
in-house graphic guys.
Yeah.
They'd always send the videos and try to put them on the LED working, they'd be so messed up, and the clients would be scrutinized, we're like, I don't have the file to get the right resolution, I told your guy, it's always like a huge thing. But we never had trouble like uploading and stuff. But
Yeah,
it's just
they-
always the content.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like the content is everything, and it sucks that's not what we provide. I think in the future we could get into that, but it's like, yeah, you can put them
Is
just
what I
very
used to have. It was
expensive
terrible.
beautiful system. and then
Terrible.
put
I
them
couldn't
down.
even get
And then
1,000.
just
Might as well have it.
Yeah, it was terrible. It didn't work for me. That was.
Yeah,
That's kind of the reason why.
and it's just like, give us